the risks involved in the functioning of the organization, like the regulatory risks, supply chain risks, product and technological risk, litigation risk, and reputational risk, how this affects the organization. Now, moving ahead, today we'll discuss on the theories of organizational adaptation. Now here, the globalization, that the company is expanding the boundaries, the national boundaries, and entering the global scene, and environmental sustainability. That is the challenges from the environmental part. These present the challenges for the managers in terms of strategic management of business corporations. Here we have seen that specifically the external factors like the changing technology, the economics operating on a particular nation, the political factors, the legal factors, and the socio-cultural trends around the globe, they seem to change. And here, the option left out for the managers is to make necessary changes or adjustments and cope up with this changing environment. There is no choice left out for them here. So here various theories have been proposed as to how the organization would fit into this uncertain, ever-changing environment. Now there are different theories stated. The first one is the population ecology. Now once the organization is framed, or we can say once it is established, this organization has influence of the environmental factors. If there is the inertia from the organization, if the organization does not make efforts to cope up with these changing environmental factors, then naturally it would not sustain in the society, in that particular nation. Maybe it is the company is replaced, it goes bankrupt many a times. These things, they do happen. This theory seems to be much more popular in sociology. But in terms of organization performance, the research fails to support this type of theory, that is population ecology. Now, the second one is the institution theory. Now, this institution theory is opposite of the population ecology, or it's against that. Here, this theory proposes that the environment is bound to change. In today's uncertain world, there will be the changes in terms of technological innovations, in terms of competitors coming up with the different strategies, pricing policies, new products. So here, this theory proposes that organizations can adapt to changing conditions by imitating other successful organizations. That is, the organizations can take the approaches, ideas, or copy from other successful organizations, imbibe these into them, and move ahead. That is what this theory proposes. Now here examples can be found of companies that have been able to cope up with the changing conditions by imitating and admired firm strategies and management techniques. So, influenced or inspired by the successful firms, these firms can copy the strategies many a times or learn from them and move ahead in the market. Now, this theory, however, it does not explain how or by whom successful new strategies are developed in the first place. Now, the third is the strategic choice perspective. Now, this strategic choice perspective, it moves ahead by proposing that not only do organizations they adapt to changing environment, but many of them they look out for opportunities and have the power to reshape their environment. So we say this strategy choice perspective is one step ahead of institution theory. It not only copes up with the changes made in the environment, but it channelizes the opportunities. Like if an organization comes up with a new technology driven product, something new, they find the gap and they enter the market, then they can enjoy the pioneer market share in the market. They can reshape their environment. Now, this perspective is supported by research indicating that the firm's management have at least as great an impact of firm performance as overall industry factors. Now, here, when it comes to strategic choice, the decisions of the firm made by the managers have the as the overall impact on the firm. The rational strategic decision making plays a very important role in this strategic choice perspective. It becomes one of the dominant factors in the strategic management. So here, when it comes to the choice, it's basically the decision making process which these managers they undertake in the ever changing uncertain environment. When the managers think about alternative options available and make a choice of a particular decision and move ahead, it is much more appreciated. So this becomes the strategic choice perspective, which gives an competitive edge for the organization to sustain in the market. When we say it's a strategic choice, it means it's from the overall industry perspective, the competitors perspective, and in the well-being of the organization. It gives some competitive edge to the organization. The fourth one is the organization learning theory. Now here, the organization adjusts defensively to this changing environment and makes use of its knowledge to fit between itself and the environment. Now here basically this organization learning theory includes the people at all the levels. Now this approach expands from the strategic choice perspective to include all level of inputs in decision making. Here, not only the top management personnels are included, but the people from all the aspects they come together. That is, it's horizontally managed. They interact among each other on a particular issue or while taking a decision. The ideas are exchanged. The opinions and views of other employees, they are also welcomed. So here, these organizations, they quickly adapt to the environment by becoming learning organizations. Now here it believes that every now and then the organization invites the learning process, the employees. When we say it's the organizations, that means the employees, maybe through R&D, through innovations, through research. People, they are working, those who are working in the R&D department, they are always into the innovations. They are learning something new. While the middle level managers or the top level managers are into the decision making aspect. Now they are learning about the competitor strategy, their own mistakes. From that they learn. So here the organizational learning theory emphasizes more on the acquiring knowledge and experimenting or applying it into day-to-day challenges or to overcome day-to-day challenges which are faced by the organization. That is what is the organizational learning theory. So here many of the organizations which are into the training and development, most of them they spend huge amount on training the employees. Now why they, what is the reason? Because such organizations wants their employees to be equipped. Maybe they want to be techno savvy or maybe through behavioral learning. They want these employees to be equipped with this modern mechanic tools to sustain in the changing environmental conditions. Now the next is the creating a learning organization. Now the strategic management has its primary value in helping organizations to function successfully in dynamic complex environment. It is dynamic because nobody can predict what is going to happen in the next or in the future. That's why we say it's a dynamic and complex environment, because there are many factors which operate on the business. That's why we say it's the complex environment, and many times these are non-controllable factors basically. To be more specific, one has no control on the government, one has no control on the legalities, one has no control on the technological changes. All these are external forces operating on the business. Now here, to sustain in this competitive, ever changing, dynamic business environment, the organizations, they are today becoming more flexible, they are becoming less bureaucratic, they are opting or they are open for new ideas, new changes, because ultimately the objective or the aim is to sustain and move ahead. In previous years or past years, the competitive strategy, it only involved just defining a competitive position and defending it. So it revolved around only this competitive aspect, how you can keep the competitors away from yourself, or how a company can think of gaining more market share or becoming dominant in the market. But now that's not the scene. Now here, as it takes less and less time for one product or technology to replace another, companies are finding that today there is no such thing as permanent competitive advantage. It is nothing stays permanent. Every now and then the strategies change. If a company thinks of coming up with a new strategy, the competitor is going to copy, or maybe they will come up with the counter strategy and the things move ahead. And here, if the company does not react to this, then it's not going to sustain. So, the corporations, they have to be strategically flexible. They have to have the ability to shift from one dominant strategy to the another. Now, the strategic flexibility demands a long-term commitment to the development and nurturing of resources. Now, here, how this is possible? This is possible with the help of learning organization. An organization skilled at creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge and modifying its behavior to reflect new knowledge and insights. So, this organizational learning becomes a very important and critical component of competitiveness in the changing environment. Now, for example, if we consider the HP, Hewlett Packard, or for instance, British Petroleum, they use extensive network of informal committees to transfer knowledge among their cross-functional teams and try to spread new sources of knowledge quickly. So here they do not wait for the commands to be received from the senior managers. It's a part of informal communication. So here the organization has given that much flexibility that if the employees have some new information to share, it can be easily communicated to other members of the organization. Similarly, Siemens, a major electronics company, created a global knowledge sharing network called ShareNet in order to quickly spread information technology through the organization. Now, based on its experience with ShareNet, Siemens established People ShareNet. Now, this is a system that serves as a virtual expert marketplace, facilitating the creation of cross-cultural team composed of members with specific knowledge and competencies. So here, when the companies come up with the new ideas, new means of innovation, they learn much more things. These prove to be the foundations or basics of learning organizations. Now here, learning organizations, they are skilled in four main activities. The first one is the problem solving systematically. Now here, when we have the developed theories, when uh, the organizations, they take into consideration the training and development part, the managers are well equipped with the tools to solve the problems. So here there is no panic situation for such uh, learning organizations. They try to see what is the problem, what is the source of the problem, what all are the options to solve a particular problem, and then with the help of experts and brainstorming sessions, systematically the managers, they solve the problem. Experimenting with new approaches. Now here, suppose if the company wants to experiment, if there is some new idea, an employee has given a new idea, then the company thinks of experimenting on this approach. Now in GE, they always welcome the suggestions or the ideas put forth by the employees, and the employee is rewarded. So here, when there is learning and sharing of knowledge, with this experimentation also the company can gain a competitive advantage. Learning from their own experiences and past history as well as from the experiences of others. Now here the organizations, they learn from their own experiences. Maybe in the past they can have a look at the past history. What is the market share of the organizations? Where do we stand? Who are the competitors? And what could be done to change the scenario? As well as from the experiences of others. So if they have made some mistakes in the past, they can think of rectifying it and moving ahead. Even from the others' experience, if the competitor has made some mistakes, from that also they can learn. If the competitor has become more successful, from them also they can uh, learn how to cope up with this organizational changes. The next is transferring knowledge. So just now I have given you example of Siemens. So how quickly the organizations adapt the changes and transfer the knowledge efficiently throughout the organization also plays a very vital role. Now high technology industries, they are defined by paths of learning in which the organizational strengths derive from the learned capacities in this high technology industries, because every now and then they think of innovation and coming up with the new technologies. When this is possible, only when they have the learned capabilities in the organization, then only this thing is possible. Companies from an individual entrepreneur's knowledge. Suppose if the entrepreneur is more knowledgeable, then this evolves as an organizational knowledge. This organizational knowledge is composed of basically three strengths, like technical skills, mainly in research, functional knowledge, such as production and marketing, and managerial expertise. So, here, in terms of organizational knowledge, the entrepreneur, he has an edge in the technical skills, maybe in research or functional knowledge of the expertise of the production part and money and marketing. So his knowledge is passed on to the employees in that organization. This leads to the company's success and creates an entry barrier for the new competitors. Strategic management is also essential for learning organizations to avoid stagnation. Now, here, suppose if the organization does not adapt these learnings part, then they would be stagnant. There would be stagnancy. There would be no change, and ultimately, this will reflect on the performance of the organization. So, continuous self assessment or self examination and experimentation is very important. People at all levels, they just not stop, not just the top management, participate in strategic management. They help to scan the environment for critical information, which suggests the changes to strategies and programs to take advantage of environmental shifts. Working with all the employees continuously on day-to-day basis, taking the feedback from them, improving the work methods, the procedures, the evaluation technologies, every now and then makes the company more competent. If the companies imbibe the process of self-assessment, then then only they will come to know where do they stand, what where the organization is heading towards. Now, Motorola developed an action learning format in which people from marketing, product development, and manufacturing they meet and they argue, they reach agreement about the needs of the market, the best product, the schedules of each group producing it. So here, this interactive sessions, interactive learning approaches will overcome the problems as well as give hints to other departments. So this collaboration many a times improves the efficiency of the organization. Now, the organizations, those who are experimenting on a continuous basis and are learning from their experiences or from the competitors' experience, they are proved to be more successful as compared to those who have not done this, those who have not imbibed the experiment part or the learning part. The multi-divisional corporations that establish ways to transfer knowledge across divisions, they are more innovative than other diversified corporations that do not. So now basically moving ahead with the basic model of strategic management. So this is a model of strategic management which comprises of basic four elements: environmental scanning, strategy formulation, strategy implementation, and evaluation and control. So the strategies they revolve around these four activities. Now this model is both the rational and it is prescriptive. It's a planning model that presents what a corporation should do in terms of strategic management process. Now this rational planning model it predicts that as environmental uncertainty increases, the corporations need to function very closely, analyze and predict the changing situations. So here the organization, it is expected that the organization should be on the toes here. They should understand the repercussions of the decisions made in this uncertain environment. Now, if we have a look at the first part, that is environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is monitoring, evaluating, and disseminating of information from external and internal environments to the people in the organization. Now, its purpose is to identify strategic factors in this external and internal environment which will affect the functioning of the organization. Now, very simple way to conduct this environmental scanning is SWOT analysis. Like what are the strengths of the company, what are the weaknesses of the company, the opportunities and the threats. Threats are outside the organization. Now, if the organization does not keep a watch on these threats, then it may face problems in future. So here the organization should be proactive and they should sense the threats in advance. That's why they should learn what is happening around. Now the internal variables consist of the strengths and weaknesses of the organization. Now here it depends upon the individual organization. Organization, they have their own assets, they have their own strengths. Maybe a company may be technologically very strong, innovative. It may have good reputation in the market, in the industry. Already I have discussed this in detail in the previous session. The strengths of the organization. How are the relations with the employees? The suppliers become the part of this internal environment. The employees, the basically the unions, the trade unions in the organization, the organization's culture imbibed in these employees. And external factors, they include like the legalities, the socio-cultural environment, the technological environment, the natural environment, where these firms, they have no option. They cannot control them but to adjust with this changing environment. They cannot do much as far as this external environmental factors is considered. So that's why the organizations or the companies stress on the core competencies, gaining more competitive edge and core competencies to become much more stronger. The next part is the strategy formulation. Now here, once you take into consideration this environmental scanning, you know the factors which are affecting, then comes the part of formulating the strategies. Once you analyze the strengths and weaknesses or the opportunities and threats, then the company thinks of framing the strategies. Now, this basically includes defining the corporate mission, specifying the objectives, developing strategies, and setting policy guidelines. Organization mission frames one of the important foundation in strategy formulation. Mission is the purpose or reason why the organization is into the market. It shows the existence of the organization. It exactly tells what the company is offering to the society. Now here a well defined mission statement, it gives a clear cut idea about the purpose of the type of firm and identifies the scope or its domain or core of the company's operations in terms of maybe products or services offered and market served. Now here a mission statement may also include firm's values or the philosophical background about how to do business or how to be into the business and treat the employees. It promotes the sense of shared expectations in employees and communicates to the public the image of the company. Now, here mission describes what the organization is now, and vision describes where the organization would like to be in the future. So some companies prefer to list their values and philosophy of doing business also. So this is reflected as the value statement of the organization. If you consider, for example, like Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So this is the mission statement. A mission may be defined narrowly or broadly in scope. Broad mission statement is used by many of the corporations. A narrow mission statement clearly states that the organization's business, it may be limited scope to the firm's activities, maybe in terms of product or services offered, or the technology or the markets to be served. Only that much some of the organizations they consider. Now the next is the objectives. Objectives are the end results. It tells what is to be accomplished, when it is to be accomplished, and quantified if possible. Now here we also have the term similar to the objectives, that is goals. They are often used interchangeably. Now goals are an open-ended statements what exactly an organization wants to accomplish. But here objectives are more specific. So here they have to be the quantification. Just gaining more profit will not suffice. Maybe gaining 10% profit, more profit as compared to previous year would be would serve the purpose much more. Now here some of the objectives which can be considered are like profitability aspect, which could be included in the objectives. The efficiency, that is managing the resources or with the low costs. The growth in total assets or sales. The shareholders' wealth, that is the dividends plus stock price appreciation. Utilization of resources. Reputation of the firm. Contribution of the employees. Contribution to the society from the organization side. Gaining the market leadership, that is again gaining the market share. The technological leadership, maybe with the help of creativity, innovation, the company wants to be a leader on this technological background. Survival, for some companies, survival may be the objective, like they do not want to, they want to avoid the bankruptcy, etc. So these areas are there where the companies have their defined objectives. The next comes the strategy. So based upon this comprehensive master plan, it states how the corporation is going to achieve the objectives. Objectives will state will specify the destination, but how to reach this destination is the is given by or is stated by this strategy part. Now already we have discussed these strategies. They are basically considered into three aspects like corporate strategy, business strategy, and functional strategies. Corporate strategies, they describe the company's overall direction in terms of general attitude towards the growth and the management of various businesses and product lines. They take into consideration the overall picture of the organization. All the SBUs are considered as far as this corporate strategies are considered. They fit into three main categories like stability, growth, and retrenchment. Which are the businesses which are stable, which are the businesses that are growing, and which are the businesses which have to be retrenched, that is, maybe diversified or closed for that matter. The next is the business level strategies, which occur at that particular business unit or product level. And here, this business strategies, they try to enhance the improve the competitive position of the organization. They usually fit into the competitive or the cooperative strategies. Now, here, competitive, maybe an organization comes up with a differentiation strategy to gain a competitive edge, or cooperative strategy, which may be used to provide a competitive advantage. That is, both the companies are coming together on a cooperative basis, and this alliance becomes a competitive advantage for both the companies. The functional strategies, it's the area to achieve corporate and business unit objectives by maximizing the resource productivity. It's concerned with developing distinctive competence for the company. Like maybe a company may have its R&D department. So this R&D department works every now and then on the innovations, the technological, gaining the technological leadership. That may be the motive. And this R&D department of the company becomes the competitive advantage, turns into a competitive advantage for this company. There are the policies. Now here, once the strategy is framed, the next part is the policies. A policy is a broad guideline for decision making that links the formulation of a strategy with its implementation. Now companies use policies to make sure that employees throughout the firm, they make the decisions and take actions or act accordingly to support the organization's mission with the help of objectives and strategies. Like general electives has the motto of G must be number one or two wherever it competes. So this G is objective to be number one in the market capitalization. Or Southwest Airlines, like Southwest offers no meals or resort sitting on airplanes. Now this supports the Southwest's competitive strategy of having low costs in the industries. Hence the policies provide clear guidance to managers throughout the organization. Now comes the third step, that is strategy implementations. Once you decide the policies, they have to be implemented. Strategy implementation, it's a process by which strategies and policies are put into action through the development of programs, budgets, procedures. So if we take the programs, the first part, the program, it is a statement of activities needed to accomplish, maybe a single use plan. It makes a strategy action oriented, that is put into action. Now here, automaker BMW, to achieve its objectives of increasing production efficiency by 5% each year, maybe what should be done? Shorten new model development time from 60 to 30 months, that is reduce the time frame. Reduce pre-production time from a year to no more than 5 months. That is the implementation part. And build at least two vehicles in each plant so that production can shift among models depending upon demand. So this was the uh, planned framework of strategies. Now coming to the budgets. Budget, it's a very important part for any organization. It's a statement of organizations' programs in terms of monetary values used in planning and control. A budget lists detailed cost of each of the activities or programs included in the organization. Now, budget gives you a clear cut reflection of the expenditures. What is outgoing and what is incoming, and where do we stand? That is the role of this budgets. And the organization can plan in a well framework if they have the budgets allotted before undertaking the projects for the individual departments. Now the procedures, sometimes these procedures, they are also known as the standard operating procedures. They are a system of sequential steps or techniques. They are to be followed for a particular task to be done or that job is to be done. They typically detail the various activities, how they have to be carried out. So here, basic objective of this standard operating procedures is there should be smooth flow of work or activities. There should not be any ambiguity among the roles or how the task is to be performed. That is what is the objective of this procedural part. Many times they are uh, written, they are documented, and everybody is made aware of this. The procedures, the protocols to be followed in the organization. The last part is the evaluation and control. It's the process in which the organizational activities are performed and the results are monitored. They are compared, whatever is ongoing, it's compared with the actual performance is compared with the desired performance. Here, if there is any gap, again, the feedback is given to the managers. Now, here the managers at all the levels use this resulting information to take corrective actions and solve the problems. So, this performance is the end result of activities. Evaluation is control. It's also said that it's again a step ahead to planning. It's the reversal process. Suppose if the outcomes, they do not map with the desired outcomes or results, then again why the things are not on the track. That is what is evaluated. The environmental scanning is carried out, the strategy formulation, the strategy implementation, and again evaluation and control. So it's a reverse mechanism on a continuous basis. The evaluation and control of performance completes the strategic management model. So this is the last step of the model. Based upon these performance outcomes, the management, it makes adjustments in its strategies. Strategy formulation changes with this result. The last part is the feedback learning process. As the firm or the business units, they develop the strategies, programs, it often has to go back or revise and correct the decision made earlier. If the performance is not up to the mark, then the feedback is given to the managers and managers need to rectify the strategies. Again, they have to formulate the strategies and implement them. It could mean that there may be a new competitor which was ignored during the environmental scanning and assessment part. So like this, there may be many of the factors maybe which might have missed during the planning process, and now when the results are out, the managers understand that these were the factors which were not considered. So this planning, performance and feedback is on a day-to-day basis. It's a continuous activity. Now resource capabilities and core competencies. Now resource capabilities and core competencies both are the basis of competitive advantage for the organization. One can think of dividing the resources into two parts, that is the tangible resources and the intangible resources. If we see the tangible resources, they are the assets seen, quantified, maybe the production units, the manufacturing facilities, the distribution centers, and formal reporting structures may be tangible resources. Well, against this, if we see the intangible resources, there may be deeply rooted within the organization. They may be difficult to analyze and imitate, like knowledge, trust between the managers and the employees, managerial capabilities, scientific capabilities, technological capabilities of the organization, the brand name, the trust and faith or loyalty of the customers. All these are intangible resources of the organization. Now, here, if we take into consideration these tangible resources, they include the financial resources, organization resources, physical resources, and technological resources. If you consider the financial resources, the firm's borrowing capacity. Now, here it includes the firm's borrowing capacity means, see, when the firm thinks into consideration the asset part, in that case, the firm should have to prove itself. If it wants to borrow the financial part, it needs to convince to the other parties that it has certain assets, it can prove to be more profitable. So that is what is the capability of the organization. The firm's ability to generate internal funds. Fundraising is a very challenging part for the organization. Hence, that is also an important tangible part. Organizational resources includes the firm's formal reporting structure and its planning, controlling, and coordinating systems. So many a times having a proper, well-defined structures or assigning the role to the employees also proves to be the resource as well as the core competency of the organization. The organizations are rated on the basis of this organizational resource part also. The strategies, the policies framed by the organizations, they reflect the core competencies. The physical resources, the sophistication and location of a firm's plant or equipment, whether it's near, that is access to raw material, suppliers. So this physical resources part also form the tangible resources. The technical resources, the stock of technologies, technical aspects, such as patents. If the company has its patents, trademarks under its name, they have the copyrights, the trade secrets, then that is also a treasure, the tangible treasure of the organization, which is visible to all of them. This is about the tangible resources. The next part of intangible resources we will discuss in the next session. Today we will stop here.